Hello and welcome to the episode of the Bubbs on Sports podcast. Today is Tuesday, September 12th. Hope everyone's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Tuesday, September 12th here today. It is the day after a crazy game last night for the New York Jets, a roller coaster of emotions. If you're a New York Jets fan, you come away with a massive victory over the Buffalo Bills to open up the season 1-0. But you also come away from the game losing Aaron Rodgers for the season with a torn Achilles, and he is now done for the year. And if you're a Jets fan, it's awful. It's awful. It's devastating. Any of those words fit into how you feel today as a New York Jets fan. It was nice to get the win, but now you start to wonder, where is this team at with the quarterback situation? We'll break it all down in today's episode. We'll also get into the good things that happened in last night's win because it was awesome. It was a great win. It was an awesome environment, and it was one of the greatest, one of the best wins I've seen in a very long time. In my life as a Jet fan, it's definitely one of the craziest wins I've ever seen. With the punt return touchdown for Xavier Gibson, the undrafted free agent. Awesome story. Was obviously on Hard Knocks. It was one of the feel-good stories on Hard Knocks. He goes the distance, wins the game in overtime. The defense was dominant. Jordan Whitehead had a massive game. So we'll certainly get into the positives, but we got to start with Aaron Rodgers. So we'll get to that, open up the show. Just awful stuff, and you feel for him especially. We'll also get into some other NFL stuff. We'll also get into the Giants as well. I know it's a couple days late. Apologize for no podcast yesterday. Was at the game, so didn't have time. Was an awesome environment last night. That's why this podcast is up a little bit later today. My voice for a good chunk of today was gone. It is now starting to come back. This morning I did a podcast on my In the Trench with Gangrene channel, and my voice was probably not great then. Definitely better now. My voice last night was dead. That's why I did not even think about recording a podcast when I got back from the game, because my voice was dead, and none of you would probably even understand anything I was saying because it would have been so low tone. So we're here, late pod, shorter pod, but we'll start with Aaron Rodgers. We'll start with the New York Jets. So they get the win 22-16. They 1-0 as an overall record, and they're 1-0 in the division, and it was an awesome win. It was a great environment from the start. But again, it's awful because the timeline of this all, you have the whole introductions, you go out there, all the anticipation really since April. You even go back to March when the rumors really started to begin. I mean, let's be honest here, back all the way to January when the New York Jets walked off the field in Miami, finishing their season 7-10, capping off a 6-game losing streak to end the season. When they walked off the field, they realized they needed a quarterback. And many times the New York Jets in the past couple seasons have, for a while now, they've settled for plan B. They've settled for plan C. The New York Jets did not do that. They did not settle for a Derek Carr. They did not settle for another option. They did not settle for a Baker Mayfield or, a Tannehill or a Jimmy G. They went out and got the top guy, and that was Aaron Rodgers. And from that point, when he walked into the building back in April for his introductory press conference, and then once training camp started in July, the excitement has been amazing. It's been through the roof. And to go into last night's game and 4 snaps in on the 4th snap of his Jet career to blow out his Achilles and be done for the season, it's devastating to this fan base, to this team, to the locker room. It's awful. It's the worst case scenario because we've talked about this on this show, is the backup quarterback situation and what if Rodgers goes down for a game or two. And there he is. He didn't even complete a pass, and he's out of the game. He's out for the season. And look, I'm not going to sit here and predict what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers in his future. I would like to think that he's back next year, but I don't even want to think about that right now. We've got 16 games left. We have a full season ahead of us. We're 1-0. We're 1 game in. It feels like, the last 24 hours has been a whirlwind, and it feels like this season has been going on for forever. Like, it feels like we're already like 10 weeks into the season with the way things have went. Like last night was such a roller coaster because Rodgers goes down, the stadium was electric, then he goes down, and then for like 5 minutes you could hear a pin drop in that place. And then the Bills took over again. Defense got to stop. 3rd down started to get loud. I think the crowd started to realize, I certainly started to realize, all right, Zach's out there. It's not what we want, but you got to find a way to win the game. You're still in it. You got to find a way. And the Jets found a way, and they got the job done. And now the questions begin as to what the quarterback situation is, but you especially feel for Aaron Rodgers. You really do, because this was a guy that, went into this offseason not really knowing what his future was, whether he was going to retire. I think Green Bay was probably off the table, but I guess there was still a small chance of going back to Green Bay. Was he going to go to another team, whether that was going to be the Jets or another team that was in need of a quarterback? Obviously there was probably about a couple teams that were involved. There's always a couple teams they throw out there. He ultimately chooses the Jets. He even said, even going back, he said how he did a couple workouts prior to, officially deciding that he wanted to come back and play for the New York Jets. And he said how his body felt great. He felt like he was in a lot better spot than where he was last year. He was finally healthy too. A lot of people forget Rodgers played last season with a broken thumb the entire year that he hurt early in the season. So he's finally healthy, finally ready to go, felt good, had a lot of energy, came into a young locker room that kind of, the guys rallied around him, was just one of the guys, became a leader. Everybody looked up to him, had all the handshakes with Sauce and all these guys, and for it to get taken away from him this early, you feel awful for him. And you especially feel awful for him because he might not ever play in the NFL again. He just might not. And again, I don't want to sound negative, and I don't want to look at it from a negative outlook. Maybe he does come back next year, but the whole idea of this being a 2-year window is kind of out the door now, because if he comes back next year, that's probably it. So it's probably really only a 1-year thing, and I don't even want to think about what next year is going to bring and if he'd be the same player, because he's going to be, he's going to be 40 in December. How does the whole recovery go? I think a lot of people have mentioned he's a very competitive guy. He's going to be a future Hall of Famer. I think he still has a chip on his shoulder as to that he wants to prove something. You've heard a lot today that he's devastated. A lot of people around him, guys in the locker room, the feeling around him is that, he's devastated, obviously. But he's an extremely competitive guy. So from that perspective, is he really going to want to end what is a Hall of Fame career like this? Or is he going to want to make a comeback and potentially come back next year and do something special? Is that going to be his mindset? Who knows? It just stinks for everybody involved. Jets fans especially. We don't deserve this. We don't deserve this. Like, this is, I don't know what we did to deserve this with all this offseason and all this excitement. To have it end in 4 plays is awful. And now you got to roll with Zach Wilson. And now you really get into last night's game, which was an awesome victory. And I got to admit, going into halftime of that game last night where the Jets were down 13-3, you're sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, it felt a lot like last season where they're down 10, they're only down 10. They get the ball to start the second half, but it feels like they're down 30 because of the offense, because of the lack of anything going on offense, because of Zach Wilson being out there and you just have no trust in him and all those things. And they found a way and came out. They got some points in the third, held the Bills to 3 points in the second half. Jordan Whitehead with the game of his life, 3 interceptions, a Josh Allen fumble recovery, 4 turnovers last night for the New York Jets. This defense is elite. It's not just top 10. It's not just top 5. It's top 3. And you can make an argument they're number 1 within the top 3. This is a defense, or as many say, they're top 2 and they're not 2. They're number 1. This defense is nasty. DJ Reed had an awesome game. Quincy Williams had an awesome game, had a huge pass breakup in the end zone. You look at a couple plays like that kind of fly under the radar. He doesn't make that play, Jets probably don't win the game. Huge pass breakup, had a couple massive tackles as well. Whitehead, like I mentioned, with 3 interceptions. The defensive line was getting to Allen. I talked about this. I wrote it in my article, and I also talked about this on my Jets podcast and Apple podcast. I mentioned that, or wherever you get your podcasts, I mentioned that the Jets got to get to Josh Allen, and they did that last night. 5 sacks on Josh Allen, 9 quarterback hits. Jermaine Johnson had a sack. JFM had a sack. JFM had a very underrated game last night. JFM's an extremely underrated player. Even though he came away with 1 sack, he was all over the field last night. Quentin Jefferson, 2 sacks. Al Woods had a sack. Quinnen Williams is all over the field again. Another quarterback hit, was getting involved. This defensive line is a monster. It is a monster. This defense is a monster, and it showed last night. And offensively, Breece Hall looks like the Breece Hall he was last year. He looks like he hasn't missed a beat. 10 carries, 127 yards, had that massive 83-yard carry after I believe it was after the Jordan Whitehead interception that put him inside. I think it was inside the 5. It put him because it was the deep ball. Kind of overthrown. Whitehead took it. I think it was inside the 5. And you were kind of thinking there as a Jet fan, it's like, okay, would it have been better for the Bills just to punt that? You probably would have gotten better field position, but momentum, turnover. I always like to take the turnovers even in those situations. But he had the 83-yard run, reached up to 20 miles an hour on the GPS, and it was crazy. It was crazy. Breece Hall's crazy, and the fans again were into it. I mean, the Breece chants were as loud as ever. Now, I wasn't at a game last year when those were the loudest Breece chants ever. Because I went to the game. I went to the Week 9 Bills game last year. I try to get to a game or two every season. And I was there last season for the Jets-Bills game. Breece was obviously hurt at that point, but those by far were the loudest Breece chants of his career. He had a heck of a game. The Jets ran a couple 13 personnel sets with 3 tight ends. Ruckert, I thought, made a couple really nice plays when it came to the run blocking. Garrett Wilson, I mean, what a catch he had. He had 5 catches for 34 yards and a touchdown. I think, again, the quarterback play definitely affected. He didn't put up 80, 90 yards, but he had that crazy touchdown. Wasn't the best throw from Zach, but Zach, you got to give him some credit. It was an RPO. He saw Garrett Wilson in a one-on-one. He liked the matchup, and he took a chance. And I was happy to see that with Zach, that he was able to make that decision on his own, and he didn't hesitate. He wasn't stupid. He didn't make a mistake. He didn't hesitate and panic and throw a bad ball. It wasn't the best thrown ball, no doubt. Garrett Wilson kind of saved him. It probably would have been incomplete if Garrett Wilson didn't put his hand over, but what a catch by Garrett Wilson. And the Jets found a way to win, and Xavier Gipson was the cherry on top. That's obviously the highlight of the night. Stadium was crazy, jumping up and down, high-fiving random people. That's what's awesome. High-fiving all the Jets fans, jumping up and down, JTS Jets chants, leaving the stadium. It was awesome. It was an awesome win. And you got to give a ton of credit to Saleh because when Rodgers went down again, the air just got sucked out of the building. Whatever phrase you want to use. Air, wind, momentum, energy, whatever you want to say. It all got sucked out of the building. And for Saleh to keep his guys in it, for this team, you got to also give a lot of credit to the players, especially the defense. For this team to continue to go out there and fight and claw to a victory against a division opponent like the Buffalo Bills and do it the way they did is, in comeback fashion, is something that is awesome to see. This team easily could have folded. Rodgers goes down. Their leader goes down. This team easily could have folded and lost 31-13 last night. Easily. 31-10. It could have gotten real ugly. But they didn't. They kept fighting. They kept clawing. It wasn't always pretty, but they got the job done. And Xavier Gipson with the punt return came on to camp. With Corey Davis retiring, it opened up an opportunity for him. Has been rotating on and off in the punt returns. Got an opportunity last night. Is the punt returner. Is the kick returner. Has the crazy punt return to win the game. Undrafted free agent from Stephen F. Austin. Was a roster bubble guy. Was one of the feel-good stories at training camp. Him and Jason Brownlee. To see that happen, you feel awesome for him. Like, what a moment for him. A guy, undrafted free agent, was overlooked, comes in, prime time, overtime, punt return touchdown, New York, bright lights, big market, divisional game, Jets, all that stuff. Like, for that to happen was awesome. It was awesome. And, again, it's just a great story and a feel-good moment for him. And got to give him a lot of credit as well. It was a nice run. It was an awesome return. So, when you look at the quarterback situation now, because, again, I've gone back and forth today. I at the end of the day, this team's got to rally around Zach Wilson. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. They're going to bring in a veteran. They're not going to bring in a veteran. It looks like they compete with Zach Wilson. But there's so many unknowns for the future right now with this team where there's a chance 3 weeks from now, the New York Jets can have a completely different quarterback. If Zach Wilson goes out there and plays terrible these next 2 games, and let's say the Jets bring in a Carson Wentz or somebody like that, there's a chance Wentz could be playing in 3 weeks from now. You have no clue how this season's going to all play out. Or a Heineke or somebody like that, or another veteran. They're going to bring somebody else in, obviously. But all you could do is take it week by week. Like Sal said, you're on to Dallas. You got this win. You're 1-0. And you got to recognize that. You're 1-0. You feel a lot worse today if this team was 0-1 and lost Aaron Rodgers. But there was a lot of positives to take away from last night's game. You take away, again, I know the Aaron Rodgers injury is monstrous. And it's hard to look back at last night's game and not just think about the Aaron Rodgers injury. It's hard not to. But when you do look back and try and take that away, the Jets came away with a divisional win. That's a big deal. This is a team that hasn't won division games much at all over the last couple seasons. They were able to win a division game last night in prime time. That's huge. You got to find a way to build on this. Zach went 14-21, 140 yards, a touchdown, a pick, two sacks. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say Zach played well. I thought he limited the big mistake. I thought the interception wasn't great. The interception was a throw that he made his rookie year and last year where he had Dalvin Cook right in front of him, and he decided to throw it right to Milano. I don't know who he was trying to throw it to. It was right to Matt Milano. I don't know what he was trying to do. It was a bad play. The bar's so low. All you need Zach to do is just be competent. If he can be competent, you give yourself a chance. This defense is elite. You got one of the best 1-2 punches at running back. If he could just be competent, you'll find ways. This team's got to rally around him. I'm rooting for Zach. I am. You got to root for Zach. If you're a Jets fan, if you're a real Jets fan, you're going to be there 4 Eastern, 4:25 Eastern, whenever kickoff is on Sunday, and you're going to be there rooting. And I don't care how the Jets get it done. I just want this team to make the playoffs. I don't care if they win every game from here on out 6-3. I really don't care, as long as they're finding ways to win. And that's all you can do. It's 1 week at a time. Just find a way to win. All you need, Zach, is to be confident. If Zach can go out there, give you 18 of 26 or 18 of 27 for 175, 180 yards and a touchdown, if he can do that pretty much every week or something similar to that, and he can just be a game manager and Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook could take over games like Breece Hall was able to do last night, where he had 10 carries and 127 yards. If he can do that, then they'll find ways to win, like they did last night. And if the defense continues to dominate, which you expect it to dominate because that's the strength of this team, this is one thing we said about this defense last year. They didn't force many turnovers. Well, they forced 4 last night. Now, when you force 4 turnovers, you should win by a lot more than 6. Ideally, you force 4 turnovers. That should be at least 2-score win. But, the Jets' offense was it was basically thrown upside down in the middle of the game. Look, I would like to see the Jets do some different things with Zach. He's not, I'm rooting for him. Do I have trust? Do I believe that he's going to find a way to turn this thing around? I don't, but I'm rooting for him. We're all rooting for him. We want to see him step up. We want to see him do well. This is his moment. This is his opportunity. He's thrust into this. In terms of what they can do, look, I think this is a team that's got to get back to their identity of just running the ball. We saw them run 13 personnel last night with 3 tight ends and 1 running back sets. We saw that a lot. Do that. Do 3 tight ends, a running back, or if you want to do 2 tight ends, a fullback, or a tight end, a fullback, put a running back there, obviously, and find a way to just run the ball and have Zach do these short yardage situations, get the ball out on the flat, slants, play action, RPOs. You could do that. Try and find ways to run. Run it, get 4 or 5 yards, set up second and short, set up third down and shorts. Make Zach have to make make Zach not have to overwork. I think that's the biggest thing is the less you could have Zach throwing the ball in big spots or even in like third and long situations, the better. I think that's kind of what you got to get at when it comes to strategizing. I would like to see them use Zach's legs. He's mobile. LaFleur did not use his legs at all. Give him some design runs. Give him some design bootlegs. I think that's something that now he's got to learn to protect his body because he doesn't do a great job of that. But you've seen the potential. You even go back 2 years ago, potential with his legs. You go back 2 years ago against the Jaguars. He had that huge run in his rookie year. Even this preseason against the Bucks, he had the huge run. Now he's got to learn to take care of himself and step out of bounds or slide instead of taking a big hit at the knees like he has many times. But he can use his legs. Utilize his legs. Find a way to give him some design runs. Zach might not be the best quarterback, He might not be the best pocket passer, but he's extremely athletic, and he's fast, and he's got mobility. And you got to find a way to use that. I also think you got to find a way to use some gadget plays. McCole Hardman barely played last night. Give him some gadget plays, jet sweeps, any of these type of like an end around, all this stuff. Like some of these trick plays. Find a way to try and find a way to just throw some kind of, I don't know the right word, but uniqueness into this offense, because it is going to be a very run-heavy team, and you're also it's going to be very run-heavy, which is tough to keep the defense guessing when you want to keep the defense guessing, but it's tough to do when you know you're going to be a run-first team. But to try and do that, you can sprinkle in a couple, gadget plays, which is why you have McCole Hardman. Utilize his speed. That's what you got to do. It's not going to be easy. It's not. You got to root for Zach. You got to buy into Zach. Whether you like him or not, whether you think he's good or not, whether you believe in him or not, you got to find a way to buy in. You got to root for him, and that's all you can do. This fan base has got to rally around him. This locker room's got to rally around him, and you got to take it week by week. You got Dallas coming up. Find a way to win. Find a way to get the job done. You found a way to get the job done last night, which if you would have told me the Jets would have won that game going into halftime, I would have thought you were crazy. I thought the Jets had no chance. I thought it was going to turn into a blowout after halftime. But it didn't. They stuck in there. They kept going. Defense stepped up. Offense did just enough. And they came away with a victory. Devastating that Aaron Rodgers is out. But you got to move on. Unfortunately, it's the harsh reality of the NFL. Injuries happen. It stinks that it has to happen this way. With just being this big of a piece of this team, all the hype, all the excitement. And it's the Jets, and this always happens, and it's just unfortunate. We finally have a quarterback, and here we're sitting again. And that's something that's just so, it just hurts, because I can't believe we're sitting here right now talking about the quarterback. Like, I can't believe it. We're sitting here today, and we're talking about we don't have a quarterback. Or, I don't want to say we don't have a quarterback, but we don't have a quarterback that we can fully trust. And how many times have we said that over the last 10 years? It's been too much. And here we are again, we're searching. So, it's unfortunate. It's awful. But Jets get the win. Zach's got to figure it out, find a way. Again, I don't care how they get this done. If they can find a way to win games 9-6 or 10-3, 10-6. If this, look, at the end of the day, let's just say this defense finds ways to hold teams under 20, 23 points each week. Find a way that, the offense put up 16 points last night. The defense is going to keep you in games. It's up to the offense. It's up to Hackett. It's up to Hackett to figure this thing out. And it's up to Zach. Zach's got to limit the big mistake. All he has to do is be a competent quarterback. And it's asking for a lot because he hasn't done that. But all he's got to do is be a competent quarterback. If he can just be competent, this team's going to win games. They're not going to win a Super Bowl. I'm not saying that. But if he's competent, this team will make the postseason. And I truly believe that. If he's less than that, well, then you got problems. Competency. That's what you need. So we'll see. All right, so now I move on to some of the other games. Giants got rocked. They got destroyed, 40-0. So at least one team came away with the win at MetLife. But, man, MetLife was just unlucky this weekend. You get a 40-0 blowout, and you get a brutal, just a devastating, I've said that about 10 times, but it is just a devastating Aaron Rodgers injury. So the Giants go 1-1 on the week combined. Giants looked awful. They looked terrible. I know a lot of Giants fans are hitting the panic button now. I don't know if I do it just yet. You got Arizona coming up. You should win. San Francisco will be tough after that. You'll probably be 1-2. You got to win this Arizona game, though. If you lose to Arizona, you got serious issues. There is problems on the offense line. There's a legitimate concern on the offense line when it comes to the Giants. Evan Neal looked horrible. I mean, there was a couple plays where Evan Neal didn't even look like he was just standing there. Thomas goes down. Interior Glowinski. They look terrible. Barkley had the drop that goes in. Like Daniel Jones got sacked 7 times. They got blown out. I thought the one play from Daniel Jones where he was rolling out, I know he's trying to make a play, but that's not a smart pass. The offensive line, the defense, you can only do so much when the offense is going 3-and-out and turning the ball over. I don't know if I want to say this game. I wouldn't sit here and blame it all on Daniel Jones. I think a lot of it was the offensive line, but I also think Daniel Jones played great. But I also not going to sit here and say, well, Daniel Jones got sacked 7 times. He barely had any time in the pocket to do anything productive. So, not a whole lot of analysis on the Cowboys game. Other than that, it was 40-0 Cowboys. And Jets will visit Dallas this week. What Cowboys team are we getting? Is that Cowboys team legit? Is that the real Cowboys? Or was that a 1-week Giants were awful type of game? What are we going to get from them? We'll see. So, some other wins over the weekend. Niners crushed Pittsburgh. So any of the Kenny Pickett Steelers hype has been quieted down for at least a week. Raiders got a tight win over the Broncos. Russ was cooking in the first half, but not so much in the second half. Jimmy G actually played well. So the Raiders get the job done. The battle of the two, what we expect to be disappointing teams in the AFC West. Well, the Ravens improved to 1-0. Dolphins won a crazy shootout over the Chargers. I'm not a big Tua guy. I don't think he's very. I'm not a big Tua believer, but Tua was amazing. He was awesome, and Tyreek Hill was wide open. You got to give credit to Mike McDaniel. Tyreek Hill's open every play, and that's a lot of credit to McDaniel getting him in the open field, getting him against corners that he can beat, lining him up in good situations. Tyreek Hill's open every play. He's tough. He's tough to stop. Eagles beat the Patriots. If the Patriots got off to a quicker start, we might be sitting here talking about a Patriots win. The Eagles' offense did not look great, but they got the job done. It was pretty much too little, too late for New England. Tom Brady in attendance wasn't able to give enough magic just being there. Maybe if Tom Brady took a couple snaps early on, maybe they could have won the game, but Patriots get the job done Eagles get the job done 25-20. It was a close one. It was a fun game to watch down the stretch, but Patriots take the loss. Packers crushed the Bears. Justin Fields looked like he's regressed. I know it's only game 1, but he looks terrible. The Ravens, Texans, if the Texans' offense played better, they easily could have won this game. Their defense is very good. I thought C.J. Stroud looked like a rookie quarterback on the road. He's on the road against probably going to be a playoff team. Solid defense. They scored 9 points. I thought he stepped up and made a couple good throws, but there was a lot of moments where they just couldn't move the ball, and it's a little bit of a lack of talent, and it's a rookie quarterback. There's going to be growing pains. I think the Texans are heading in the right direction. I liked what I saw from them defensively, but offensively, it's a rookie quarterback. There's going to be a lot of growing pains, and you saw that on Sunday. They stuck around early, but Ravens are just the better team. They pulled away late. Browns crushed the Bengals. I'm not going to sit here and panic on the Bengals. I'm not going to panic on the Chiefs because those are the two big teams that everybody's panicking about. And obviously Josh Allen last night turning the ball over 4 times. Bills fans are starting to question the turnovers. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say the Bills are going to stink this season, but the Josh Allen turnover concern is a real deal. He does have a turnover problem. And that's not just me as a Jet fan saying that. I'm not trying to act like I'm not trying to act biased or anti-Josh Allen and the Bills. It's the truth. Look at the numbers. He's got a turnover issue. Last season into this year as well. I still think he's a very good quarterback still, but he's got a lot of turnover issues. He had turned the ball over 4 times last night. 3 of those being interceptions. So, he did not look good. So Josh Allen, Mahomes, Burrow, neither of them had good weeks. I think Burrow and Allen flat out played poorly. Mahomes, a lot of it was his receivers. Like, a lot of it he couldn't do. There was perfectly placed balls that his receivers were dropping. Cough, cough, Kadarius Toney for all those Giants fans out there. At least that was kind of a win for the Giants this weekend, watching Kadarius Toney absolutely forget how to catch a football. Not that he ever really knew how. But, yeah, I mean, that was, I think out of all the quarterbacks, Allen and Burrow definitely looked the worst. Burrow was just a lot of, his receivers didn't help him. He got no help from his receivers. So, Bucks went on the road and beat Vikings as well. And when you look at some of the veteran quarterback options, too, for the Jets, I'm just sitting here looking through the teams. I know some people have brought up Kirk Cousins. I don't think Kirk Cousins coming here. I don't think Stafford's coming here. And I think a possibility, I know they reached out to Chad Henne. I don't even know why Colin Kaepernick still thinks the team's going to take him. I would not take Colin Kaepernick. Oh, he hasn't played in 5 years. Heck no. Stay far away. I'd call up Tom Brady before I call up Colin Kaepernick, which I think is obvious. Brady's not coming here either. Phillip Rivers isn't coming here. Matt Ryan's doing games on CBS. He's not coming here. I know they called for Chad Henne, knows the Hackett system, was in Jacksonville with him. Maybe, but you got to get him out of retirement. He's retired right now. Could they get him out of retirement? Again, Wentz and Foles have the connection with Douglas and Philly. So there's that. which could potentially have that. Flacco has been around the team the last 3 years really. I don't want anything, or last 2 years rather. 3 years. Yeah. I don't want anything to do with Flacco. I don't want Flacco. Doesn't matter how long he's been here. I don't want Flacco. He's washed up. There's just no need. He's not any good. No Flacco. No Flacco period, okay? Again, I mentioned Phillip Rivers. I think Heineke is option. Brissett maybe, but then again, do the Commanders have full trust in Sam Howell to think that Brissett might not ever get playing time? If Howell continues, if Howell possibly starts to struggle, which he was a little bit, Brissett then comes in. I don't know if they'd be willing to do that. If Brissett was sitting behind a Trevor Lawrence right now, I'd probably say, yeah, go out and get Brissett, because as long as Trevor Lawrence is healthy, he's never going to play. But there's a chance Brissett might see playing time if Howell struggles. So I don't know. I just don't know if that's going to happen. Heineke, I think, is a possibility. I like the idea of Heineke. He's kind of a physical run. Winston can air it out a little bit. Turns it over a lot, but can air it out. Cooper Rush, I like the possibility of him too. He's kind of a quick, quick guy that can get the ball out quickly, play within the offense. But that's the issue. These guys got to learn an offense. And the Hackett system's tough. It's tough to learn. And they're going to have to learn it. And it's going to take them some time. And they got to build chemistry. Like bringing in Cooper Rush here, you got to realize this is mid-season. It's not like these guys get 2 months of training camp or a month and a half of training camp. They got to come in here middle of the year with all these expectations. And I still have the expectation this team still should be a playoff team. They still should be a playoff team. In my eyes, this team should still be a playoff team. With the way this defense is and the way this run game is, this team should still be a playoff team. Find a way to get competent quarterbacks somehow. Find a way. That's on Zach to perform well, but if he doesn't, it's also on the front office to figure this thing out. This team should still be a playoff team. Super Bowl, AFC title, probably out of the equation at this point. But I still don't see a world where this team can't win 10 games. It's still possible. Not trying to sound like a homer or a bias, but if they get competent quarterback play somehow, whether it's a guy that's currently on, whether it's Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, forget that. And Tim Boyle's not playing, okay? Tim Boyle better never see the field, okay? But if Zach Wilson is competent, then you can get all they need is competent quarterback play. That's all they need. The Lions, Teddy Bridgewater, I know there was some rumors about this earlier in the season. But I don't know. And Colt McCoy as well. He's another one. A lot of Jets fans thought about him earlier in the season. He's a free agent, which helps. You wouldn't have to trade him for these other guys like Heineke, all these guys. You have to trade for them. You wouldn't have to give anything up for McCoy. Does that potentially elevate, the realistic possibility? Like, do the Jets really want to trade for somebody, or do they just want to go out and sign somebody? Like a Gardner Minshew's also available. Again, Brissett was out there. Like, the Jets looked at 18 different quarterbacks in the offseason. 18 different quarterbacks just in case of Rodgers. Rodgers being one of them. But they looked at 18 different quarterbacks because they didn't fully know how Rodgers would go. They didn't know what the whole Carr situation would look like. Right? But they looked at a lot of guys. Some of those guys that they looked at, they potentially could be looking at again. So we'll see. We'll see. But look, Brissett, Colt McCoy, those are guys that can come in. And with this defense, they can win you 9-10 games. And you can find a way to slip into the playoffs. Probably not much more than that, but if you can at least find a way to kill this playoff drought of 12 long, grueling years, got to go ahead and do it. So, at the end of the day, it's the NFL. You got to take it week by week. It's devastating to see this injury, but you've got to find a way to move on and got to find a way to put the pieces in place and figure this thing out. So, anyway, that'll do it for this episode of the Bubbs on Sports podcast. We'll be back potentially either tomorrow or Thursday. I'll have a Jets vs. Cowboys preview up with a special guest coming up in the coming days. So stay tuned for that, similar to what we did with the Bills with Mike Bunt, which was awesome. If you haven't checked it out and you'd like to check it out, certainly go do that a couple days ago, or the last video. I know it was a preview and the game's already happened, but if you still want to get some more insight on Buffalo and the Jets as well, prior to the Rodgers stuff, we'll get into that. So we'll have our Jets-Cowboys stuff a little bit later on this week. So that'll do it for an episode of In the Trench with Gangrene. As always, hope you enjoyed it. Or another episode of the Bubbs on Sports podcast. As always, hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for watching.